What's up? It's your boy Rampage Jackson. I'm here with the best co-host, Bear DeGidio.
We're here. We got another amazing guest, but Rampage, before we go into this guest, we are having the biggest sale of the year. JAXXON.com up to 50% off site-wide. The best-selling chain stacks, our best-selling iced-out chains, sweat-proof, custom class, durable, made to be worn every day, and styles for everybody, from bracelets to chains. Make sure you guys go check out JAXXON.com up to 50% off site-wide right now. And don't forget, if you're looking for all the limited edition clothing, you can go to JAXXONClub.com. You can use promo code YT15 for 15% off. And you can catch the shorts that we've been training in, the jackets, the eyewear, everything that the guests have been wearing. We appreciate everybody's support. Before we jump right into this podcast with this amazing guest, we just want to say thank you for everything you guys have been doing. Leave comments and make sure you guys tag us on Instagram if you've been picking up some pieces.
All right, we're on. Okay, there's been a slight hiatus of the Flip the Script podcast. Got a surgery on my foot after finishing the Red Bull project. Finally got that dialed in, and now we are back in the building. We're here with Bear. Most importantly, we're here with Jeremy, Twitch Stenberg. And it's an honor to have you on
Thanks
the podcast,
for having me,
bro.
Yeah, I was stoked.
I think we were talking out in the parking lot, and like, I've known you now over 20 years.
Yeah.
And I think our paths had always crossed because of
Do Tour, X Games,
sports.
everything. Yeah. Like I was saying, I remember I got a video of you from back in the day, like when the Hard Rock had that event out in front. I think you were like 10 or 11.
Bro, did Linkin Park play at that?
They did.
That was my first concert I had ever been
No
to.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That was forever ago.
That's all clicking. That's the first time I met Alicia Pink.
Yep.
Was chilling with Carrie Hart, with you. You didn't have as many tattoos. Your teeth weren't as sweet as they are right now.
Everyone's always like, your teeth are so nice. I'm like, I bought them.
Yeah, bro. No, I remember, man, you know, Crusty Demons and everything. Like growing up, I started riding dirt bikes probably when I was 8 years old. It was never like the forefront of what I wanted to do, but I enjoyed it so much because my dad enjoyed it. And I had a feeling of what it was like to like go fast and hit a jump, but then like always watching you guys in freestyle and like you guys pioneering what freestyle really was. But then I would also see you guys out at Elsinore. That's
what I was about to say. I would see you and your family out at Elsinore like every weekend, and I was always like, Sheckler's ass is riding dirt bikes. I'm like, he better not be getting hurt over here.
Bro, but this guy, like, you know, you see these freestylers and you're like, okay, cool. Yeah, like clearly they know how the bike works. They're magicians on these bikes, but they're fast, bro. Like Jeremy would be out there with all the top dudes that are trying to race and like trying to make racing their actual career. And these dudes are smoking them lap after lap, doing knack-knacks over the big triple. I'll never forget that big.
That thing was dope.
On the pro track.
Yeah, huge. It was like fourth gear wide open on a two-stroke. Like,
I remember one time I was trying to make it to the second knuckle, and I think I was on an 85, and I went over the bars, and that was the first time I got kind of knocked out on a dirt bike. And that's where, I think that's where the switch happened for me, where I was like, okay.
I could get hurt doing this.
I could get really hurt doing this, and I really love skateboarding, and my skateboarding career was like, just taking off. I was winning every amateur event, and I was like finally getting looked at and like almost getting invites to like big contests. And it was like actually when I was 12 years old. So 13 is when I turned pro. And I had to chill a little bit. I had to chill a little bit on the dirt bikes.
For sure. The same thing with me. Like I grew up riding BMX all the time, but I knew like when I was starting to make money riding my motorcycle, I'd be snowboarding every weekend. Like I remember breaking both my wrists and my nose on a box up at Big Bear. And I'm like, I can't be getting hurt doing my fun stuff over what pays me. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, it sucks. Cause sometimes like I like doing everything, like whether it's skating, BMX, 110s, golf, like, but dirt bikes always got to come first for me.
Yeah. We got to talk about golf. But I think we take it like all the way back. Like, how'd you get your first dirt bike? How'd you first get into it?
My parents and my grandparents literally went to the desert for every single holiday.
Okay.
And I remember even when I was little, like tiny, like I would wait by the window every day for my dad to come home from work. He had an XR 500. He'd ride to work, and every day he would get home. I'd run downstairs, jump on, and he'd take me for a ride, and I'd come back. Like,
sick.
And just, I think my dad literally rode motorcycles all the time. All his buddies rode. And then when I was really young, they got me, my dad and my buddy, they bought me a CR60 for my birthday. I was definitely too young to ride it. I wasn't tall enough. You know what I mean?
A CR60.
A CR60. They only made them for like 2 years.
Yeah, yeah.
And we got it from this dude, Judd Scanlon, who was riding for Honda at the time, like on 60s. And my dad and my uncle looped it out and ripped the back fender off. And they looked at me, they're like, you ain't riding this bike. And then they went and bought me a XR75. So XR75 dual shock was my very first motorcycle.
That's crazy.
And I think it was a 1975 XR75.
That's crazy.
Biggest pile of.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up down in San Diego.
Okay.
Yeah. I was like Spring Valley, Santee.
So when you say the desert, was it what, like
Glamis, Buttercup, Gordon's Wales. We would ride Plaster City all the time. Superstition, Ocotillo. Like from San Diego, all those spots were close. But
super close.
Yeah.
Okay. Dope, dude. When that's crazy. Did you know that dirt bikes were gonna be your thing?
I always wanted to be like Jeremy McGrath. Like I would go, my dad would take me to every single Supercross in San Diego. So like just growing up watching the racing, I was like, this is sick. And I was always like, he's the best, dude. I would study videos of him riding all the time. I'm like, his style's so sick. It's so different because he grew up riding BMX bikes. So I was always a fan of him because I knew he rode BMX and I could see that same style go to a dirt bike. Like when he'd be flowing through rhythm sections on a Supercross, I'm like, that's because he rides BMX.
Flow.
Yeah.
You could always see it.
And, for me, I just always watched videos doing him. And then I was always like, I'm going to race Supercross. And then I started seeing like the Krusty videos come out, Motor Triple X. Like I was always looked up to, like when I first started watching those, it was like Metzger, Deegan, Link Ogle, Hart. I was like, dude, that shit's sick. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, I ride BMX and I do tricks on that. I'm like, if I can do it on my BMX bike, I could for sure do it on my dirt bike. And I was riding out at Palm Avenue one day and Milo Myers and Brian Manley. Milo Myers was the owner of SMP back in the day. Now he owns Hangar 94. It's like a couple retail stores down in San Diego and stuff. And they're like, hey, there's this thing called freestyle motocross. We're going to start doing, like, you want to start wearing our gear? Like, we'll pay you. I'm like, hell yeah. I went and told my dad. I'm like, hey, these dudes want to pay me to do tricks. He's like, no one's going to pay you to do tricks. Like, you're racing. Like, we're going to race. He's like, well, let's go see what they have to say. Yeah. We went down there and had a meeting and they're like, all the gear you want, all the clothing you want. And for me, like, I grew up a couple of years of my life living in a trailer in front of my grandparents' house, or like my dad barely struggling, my mom doing anything just to get me by to, like, even racing growing up. Like I could only race the local track. We didn't have money to go to Ponca or even Star West out in like Riverside, you know? Yeah. So for me, I was like, yeah, let's do it. Like I'll be stoked to do it. And they offered me like $300 a month. My dad went home, tore down all my tracks and just built me big ass jumps in the backyard. And that was freestyle. 15 years old was when I first got my first deal. And then I missed the very first event. I think the very first one was in like Vegas. They had that big one that like Edgar Torrenteras, like all those dudes showed up to. Pastrana won, obviously, because he's the GOAT, you know? And the next one I rode was the Four Leaf Entertainment, and it was in Havasu. I think I got like 10th place or something like that. But
it didn't matter. You were competing.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm going to do this. Like there's money to be made here having fun on my motorcycle. I'm like, what's a better job than that?
So at 15, was that the switch? Was that like, okay, I'm going to still race and like have fun with that, but I'm going to focus on freestyle and learning. Like
100%. Like I was still racing at the time, but I was still riding BMX every day. Started making money riding freestyle, was loving it. Ended up doing a deal right away with like Fox and like Utopia, like just a bunch of different brands. And of course, I grew up with nothing. So when I started making money, like, I'm like, hey, let's go out here. Let's go there. And my buddy was like, I ain't got money. I'm like, we got money. Let's go. Like, we got money, you know? So for me, I spent a lot of my money in the beginning of my career, and I partied a lot and did some stupid shit. And then finally, when I had my daughter at 19, I was like, damn, it ain't about just me no more. Like, I got to provide for her. So that's like when I started taking it serious. And then a couple of years later, I met Sue, as my wife now. Yep. Been married 17 or 18 years, together for like 20 or 21. Yep. And I was still fucking up. And she's like, you know, the opportunity you have right now, like what people would die to be in your position and do this job. And that's when I was like, okay, I need to like, I was just hanging out with just people I shouldn't have been hanging out with. You know what I mean? Like you got to surround yourself with a solid circle. And my circle now is small as hell because it's like I ain't got room for drama. Like
Nope.
I'm 42 years old. Like I'm past all that shit. Like
Yeah.
if I'm hanging out with you, it's because I like you. We're like-minded. Like
For sure.
we're good, you know?
For sure.
And so that's when I really started like taking it serious and winning everything. Like I was like, okay. And as soon as I like won something big, I'm like, oh shit, I made 10 grand today. I'm like, I could do that every weekend, you know?
Let's
So
go.
for me, I was definitely driven by the money, but at the same time, like I love riding dirt bikes. I've been riding dirt bikes since I was 2 years old, you know?
And you can be driven by the allure of the prizes, the trophies, and things like that. But at the end of the day, and why we're still sitting here right now talking about sports that we've been in our whole lives, you know, is because of the passion for it.
Yes.
The money was going to come.
People don't understand. They're like, oh, you ride because you make money. I'm like, I would do this shit for free if no one paid me still every single day because it's what I've done since I was a little kid. I love motorcycles.
Yeah, and you would figure it out no matter what. But that's the entrepreneur, and that's the almost the craziness that comes with it is like, okay, you know, I one time Rob Dyrdek asked me, he was like, if you weren't a professional skateboarder, what would you be? And I'd be like, I said, I would try to be a Formula One racer. He's like, no, like that. Not in that like adrenaline,
like a real job
of life. Like what's a real job? And I'm like, man, I don't know. I
never wanted to thought about working a real job, you know?
Because this is work.
Yeah.
This is work.
A lot of people, like you hear it a lot, like, oh, it must be nice. You're like, yeah, it must be nice. I've broken every bone in my body. I've almost died twice. Like, so when I get free shit, it's really nice. I never said it wasn't nice.
Let's talk about that. Okay. So I'm at Dew Tour and I don't remember exactly where. You probably will because injuries have a way of doing that to you. You remember everything about it.
I already know where you're going with this one.
Bro, I'm sitting at the bottom of this ramp landing and I had already competed. We're out watching. And this is also like when competitions were the best because.
And we all backed each other. When he was skating, all the moto was there.
BMX,
It's a different era.
vert,
skate. Everything. Everyone would go watch each other like, oh, so-and-so's doing this.
They never ran them at the same time so that everybody could be supporting everybody else. And it was like, that's how we're all still friends. It was like the Dew Tour did it so right.
Yes, they did.
They did it so right. The 5 years of Dew Tour, and I talk about it all the time. The first 5 years of Dew Tour were my favorite years as a competitive professional skateboarder because of the friendships that I made with every action sports dude that I still have relationships with today. But getting back to what I was talking about, breaking bones, I watched this dude break both of his ankles doing a backflip that went kind of rogue, and he got away from the bike and came down backwards. What were you trying? Why did you land backwards?
So I remember I did my first run and I was sitting in 4th place and at the time I was like winning shit. Like the weekend before it was Baltimore and I should have won and Travis won. And even Travis walked up to me afterwards, was like, dude, you won the contest. I'm like, I know, but I'm like, it ain't your fault. It's the judges. You know, it's a judge sport. Shit, sometimes it goes your way, sometimes it doesn't.
And this is also when backflips were like just happening. Like Metzger had just done at X Games.
Like we all just started like doing little flip tricks here and there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I did my first run. I was sitting there in 4th place, and I'm like, I didn't come here for 4th place. I'm like, I'm winning this weekend. I almost won last weekend. And I saw Nate did a mini flip for the first time. Travis did one there for the first time. I think my buddy Ilo Galp and someone else. And I was like, oh shit, worst case. I'm like, their head's 2 feet off the ground. I go, I'm going to go for one in my next run because that was the only thing I didn't do that they did. And I was like, so that must be the separator, you know? So as I'm going up the lip, I'm like, and the lip was so steep when I gassed it, I kind of fell back. And instead of just going it's all and it flung me so quick. And I had no clue.
So high, bro.
I'd never had this feeling of flipping, of not knowing where I was in my rotation. Like, I always know where I'm at in my rotation. Like,
yeah, the air awareness is
100%.
key.
I know what the hell's going on. That happened so quick, and I was like, I got to get away from this bike. And when I threw the bike, I was like up right here, so it threw me even higher. I was like 4 stories high.
It was insane. I was on the ground like
head first. No. I'm head first, and I'm just cat scratching. I'm like, I got to get to my feet. I got to get to my feet. This is gonna hurt. I got to get to my feet. I'm just cat scratching. I felt like I had like 10 minutes in the air, and when I hit, I just buckled, and I ended up. I was laying on the ground, and the medic at the time, remember Rick?
Yeah,
Rick was cool as hell. Rick runs up. He's like, I'm like, hold on, give me a second.
Yeah.
I'm like moving my fingers, moving my toes. I always go through a checklist. I'm like, Let me breathe this out. I'll tell you what's wrong with me in a minute. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, hey, I feel something warm running down my leg. I go, I've never had a compound. I think my bone's hanging out. My right ankle is really bad. And my back hurts pretty good too. He's like, okay. And they got me on a stretcher. Started going to ambulance. And you know, in the ambulance, they always have a trainee with them. Mm-hmm. We go around the first corner. So I still have my boots on. The guy's like, oh, I'm gonna take your boot off. I'm like, no, you ain't. I'm like, wait till we get to the hospital. I'm like, I knew my bone was hanging out. And I'm like, I don't want to see that shit. Oh, so wow. We get in the ambulance. We're going down the street. The dude turns. And when he turns, he started to fall off his chair and he grabbed my ankle where the bones were hanging out and pulled it. And my wife was sitting in the front and I freaked out. I'm like, dropping gnarly F-bombs. I'm like, I'm going to kill you. I'm motherfucker. Like, I'm pissed. And then like 2 minutes later, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, dude. I'm like, I didn't mean that. I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm good. You know, my medicine started kicking in. Yeah. And 2 minutes later, does the same fucking thing. I'm like, I looked at the lady. I go, get this motherfucker away from me right now. I'm like, don't touch me, dude. Like, it hurt so bad. And then the next thing I remember was waking up in the hospital with a big old external fixator on my left leg. My right leg my right leg wasn't casted yet. It was just like all wrapped up in like those ace bandage ones. And I was just like, dude, so I ended up compounding my tib fib on my left leg where both bones came out the side. Yeah. And then I I broke my talus in like 3 places. Yep. And then went home, chilled for a while. I had to wait in the hospital for like a week before I could fly home. I went home and had surgery. Supposedly it was supposed to be like the #1 doctor in LA, like did all the Lakers, dude. He put my leg back together all crooked, was like having me come in for insurance fraud. Like every 2 weeks was seeing me for a checkup.
Bro,
like,
the tib fib is hard to put back together. You know, Andy Buckworth, same thing.
My leg's crooked as hell, both of them.
He's an inch off on the left.
Yeah.
Like,
that's crazy.
I wonder why that surgery is so gnarly.
That was by far probably my scariest crash I've had. Just like,
I watched it, bro.
It was gnarly. And it was on live TV. Like, live?
Oh, bro. That and Jake Brown's fall.
Oh,
I was on the floor.
I've seen that one.
I was on the floor for both of those.
You were there for that one too?
I was on the floor. Oh. I watched it.
Yeah, fall. I heard it.
That one hurts just thinking about it.
It was nasty.
But this one kind of rocked me. Mm-hmm. I was like, because I loved Jeremy.
We were all fans of each other. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
You know?
Don't care about I'm like, yeah, I look up to this little kid who's fucking ripping on a skateboard. You know, like
at that moment, you guys were all kind of like the world of action sports was really merging.
It was like a family. Like you said, Dew Tour did it right. Like they didn't overlap events. Like X Games will have like vert going on over here and freestyle going on over here. So you're like having to pick and choose. And it's like back then we're like, oh, we're done. Or what are you doing? I'm like, we're going to go watch street skate. Oh, now we're going to go watch BMX Park. Like, and everybody did it. Like all the athletes, it was cool.
But the creme de la creme of Dew Tour was freestyle motocross.
Come on.
I think just because the motor, you know what I mean? Like people are like, dirt bikes, you know?
It was so sick. And that's the one everybody wanted to see. And so it was like, it always capped off such a heavy weekend.
What are these guys going to do this weekend?
Yeah, bro. Because their progression was like insane. Skateboarding was progressing for sure.
Yeah. After I had that crash, Pastrana was like, oh shit, he almost did a Superman flip. If I put these levers on my bike, I could get back on. And the next weekend at Dew Tour, he was doing Superman flips because of my crash. I was like, no way. That's pretty sick. That's
how he
thought of it. Yeah. So, and just seeing each other, just like you get pretty creative really quick watching other people ride. I know I do.
For sure. What kind of take it back a little bit now, go back to the freestyle aspect. Like where in this timeline did like Brian Deegan become like a homie in your life? And when did Metal Mulisha, because Metal Mulisha was the brand. If you knew anything about motorcycles, it was Metal Mulisha.
You either loved us or hated us.
100%.
It was beautiful. There was no in between. It was either a love or a hate with all of us. And I would say right around the same time, beginning of my career, I was probably 16. I think I was 16 or 17. I was going up to Metzger's house every weekend and I would stay on his couch. Me and my buddy, Chris Rourke. Remember Chris Rourke?
I remember Chris.
Yeah. So we would drive his van up there. We'd go stay at Metzger's. We would ride with Metzger every day. And then, at a couple events, like I would meet Feist and I met Deegan. I'm like, these dudes are just like me, like they're assholes, you know, like they're always causing ruckus and talking crap to everyone. Like, oh, Kenny Bartram, he's a dork. Oh, Pastrana, screw him. You know what I mean? I was like, these are like the dudes I hang out with at home, you know?
Y'all made Nate Adams like almost quit.
We were ruthless. And right about then is when Deegan built a course out at Lake Elsinore.
Yep.
And it was I say the first, but second freestyle motocross course. Cause before freestyle started, Deegan and Link Algo built a course at his house with Mickey Diamond back in the day. And we all seen it in like the SMP videos and stuff. But then Brian built a full course and he was like, hey, come out and ride with us. I was like, all right. And like from him, that's like, he don't say come out and ride with us. He's like, people are like, hey, can we ride your course? He's like, fuck you. Like straight up, like no one had a course back then. He's like, no, I'm gonna take this sport over and I'm gonna win everything. And the only dudes that are riding here are my boys. And so, and that also was cool about the whole Mulisha thing too. I was like, I fit in perfect with these dudes. They're just like me, you know, like we all gelled together good and everyone had each other's back. And it was almost like a gang, dude. Cause like if one person had beef with someone, we all had beef with someone. If one person got in a fight, everyone ran and got in a fight. Like it was just, dude, I remember events where like BMXers are fighting Deegan and Feist on the stairway. Like just like, dude, like crazy stuff will go down at every event. And for me, I looked at it like, this is what I want to be a part of. And I was thinking, this is going to be so marketable later on. It's like you have the good guys and you have the bad guys. I'm like, I'm a good guy, but I'm not the good guy image. You know what I mean? I'm like, I want to be the bad boy, you know? And for me, I felt like I seen a future with it and they were just all my homies. So it just came so natural. Yeah. There was nothing forced, like with conversations.
Did you ever have ownership in any of it?
No, never had ownership. Always just rode for him back to brand. And there was talks of it a few times, like when they were figuring all their shit out. But for me, I looked at it like, yo, this is your guys' brand and you guys are my boys. I'll back it.
I only asked that because you were a figurehead of the brand, period. Like if I thought about Metal Mulisha, it was like Twitch and then Deegan, you know, and that's no disrespect.
And like everyone had their own dude in the Mulisha that they liked the most. It was maybe it was Feist, maybe it was Link Ogle, maybe it was Scummy, you know what I mean? Like, so it was cool. Like we all brought a lot to the table being in that big of a group, that hardcore. And our whole thing was like, your shit better be all black. Like don't show up with like a blue bike, you know, like it was like,
right. Yeah. You knew when you guys showed up and I think I gravitated towards you more because kind of like you said, like, yeah, you had the image of what it was, but you were a nice guy.
Yeah,
you were nice to me, you know, and not saying that Deegan wasn't. Deegan was just a little bit harder to break through.
Yep.
And so I've always had a great relationship with Brian.
Yep.
I got nothing there. Like it was always fine, but I always identified with you because it was easy. And when I saw you, you would say what's up to me. Yeah. And it was like,
I knew who you were. I'd always see your stuff on Field TV and just like
a mutual respect.
Yeah, exactly. You know? And I think the biggest part of like, I don't know, like why most people are always like, oh, you stayed true. Like you're real. I'm like, I remember being a little kid going to Supercross and I asked Jeff Stanton for an autograph one day when he was riding Factory Honda and he was sitting there eating a cup of noodle and he was like, nope. And I was devastated. And ever since that day, I've been like, fuck you. Like I hate Jeff Stanton. But now I look at it like, it was a blessing because I was like,
I don't want to be like that.
No, when I realized and kids started coming up to me, like, I don't care what the hell, if I'm at dinner, if I'm kissing my wife, like you grab my, like, hey, can I get a picture? I'm like, let's go. You know what I mean? Like, so for me, it was actually a blessing. So I actually got to thank Jeff for that because, you know, it's just something that always stood out in my life. I'm like, I never want to be like that to like someone that looks up to me. And being in the position I'm in now, I'm like, those are the dudes that are making me live my lifestyle that I live now. They're the ones buying my signature products. They're the ones backing my brand. They're the ones like giving me my job, basically. You know what I mean? So it's like, and with you, it was always like, I was always a fan. I was like, dude, this kid rips. Like he's sick. Like he's beating all these dudes. So it was always like a mutual, like, what up, dude? What up, Jax? Like,
I appreciate you.
Yeah,
bro.
for sure.
I remember that moment in, I think I was like 21 or 22. I was with you. And we were at a club in LA. I had just celebrated my 21st birthday, and Ronnie was at my 21st birthday, Feist.
Yep.
And I remember like, because at that time everybody had known Metal Mulisha. Like that was the thing. If you
we're talking about when you were 21.
Yeah, when I was like 19, 20.
Well, when we were both 21.
Yeah, and it was like, it was. I mean, this was probably 10 years ago, right? 2010.
Yeah, so I was definitely
because he had just got like a bronze medal at the LA X Games, I think.
I think 2010 was the year I quit riding for them.
Got it. Okay, yeah.
It was like right then.
It was right around that time. Yeah. He had just got a bronze medal that year or the year after that, 2000, or I think he got one all 3 years, 10, 11, 12.
Yeah.
Bronze medal all 3 years. And I remember meeting him. I was with you and we were with another mutual friend. And I remember being like, oh, Metal Mulisha. And I had said your name because I was like, dude, I had seen you. And like when I thought Metal Mulisha, I thought of you.
Yeah.
I love like D and I sent stuff to his kid and stuff. And I love their whole family and everything they did. But I like resonated more with you just because of like the style. It was like
for sure.
You had a lot like fresher tone to you, I think, for me as a kid at the time. and I'm not that old. I'm 33.
Yeah.
So I remember at the time.
Yeah, don't age yourself. We're the same age, bro.
Yeah, and I remember
Chill out.
I remember asking someone. I think I probably asked you. I was like, "Bro, are they a gang or like a moto team or like a freestyle team?" And I remember you being like, "Don't worry about it, bro. Like it's a lot to explain." And then like we kept rocking, and it was such a unique experience for me because like like in surfing, we don't need to go down the rabbit hole, but there was a crew that just wore like black shorts, and then like every kind of industry had like that one crew. They didn't like mainstream the sport, but they brought so much attention to the sport that it in chance like mainstream the sport. And I feel like that's what Metal Militia did.
Well, that's what he was talking about. Yeah. It was like good guys or bad guys. Yeah. It wasn't by design that's what it was going to be, but that's what it turned into. Yeah. It was like, bro.
And every event fed off of that. Like, let's do an interview with the Militia. Let's ask him about this. Let's do one with Travis and ask him about that. Or let's do one with Metzger. You know what I mean? Like,
and when I went to an X Games, it was in 2011. I know for sure he won the bronze. I was there. I was 21. And he's like, yo, come watch me. I think it was a bronze or something. I don't want to say something he didn't get, but I think it was a bronze. And I remember being like, oh, where were you? So it was 2011. That was the year after. You were gone in 2010 or 11?
I quit riding for Militia 2010. I think like the end of 2010.
And was that just a personal decision?
No, it was a fuck you decision. Like I was working on a TV show and Brian wasn't stoked on it.
I remember that.
Yeah. Ended up trying to take it from me. And then I was just kind of like, you're supposed to be my friend. Like, why the fuck would you go behind my back and try to take this from me? You know what I mean?
Really?
So that was kind of like, and a lot of people were like, oh, you left Militia because of money. You left. I'm like, no, I left because we had differences. And I thought this dude was one of my best friends and had my back and would never do something like that. So we had beef for years, like fucking, we hated each other. You know what I mean? And it sucked because we were all such good friends. Like I was at the hospital when every one of his kids was born. Like I've held one of his kids like the day they were born or the day after, you know what I mean? So for me, I took it to heart and I was like, fuck you, dude. Like I was pissed, like wanted nothing to do with him. Like every time I seen him or he's seen me, we just like not even like go that direction. And
I remember those days, dude.
And then I remember one year we were, I think we were at one of the remember when X Games had like the 4, it was like Brazil, Germany, like the global tour.
Yep.
I remember we were walking down the hallway. I'm walking down the hallway and I'm looking and I'm like, shit's about to go down right now. You would have whooped my ass, but I'm like, this shit's about to go. Like I was always pissed off just because of you know, like, you know,
a little bit of ego.
And it was after Lust passed away. It was after I think Ox passed away and we were walking down the hallway and we both just stopped like, life's too short for this shit, dude. Like we had too much shit in common. Like we see each other all the time. Like I think I just got to a point in my life where I was just like, I ain't gonna sweat the small shit. I'm doing good right now. I reinvented myself after something that a lot of people thought I wasn't gonna be able to do. And I worked my ass off to like be my own person, not part of like a group. You know what I mean? And I have nothing but respect for him. Like love the way he's raising his kids, love his personality now. Like we talk all the time. Like whenever we see each other, there was just like a phase in my life where I was just like, fuck this dude, you know, like it is what it is. And I'm sure he was the same way because he wanted something I had, I wanted something he had. And it was honestly, it could have been a easy solve with the conversation of like, yo, let's sit down and hash this out real quick. Why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? But when you have a bunch of hard asses in a group, it's like, no, fuck you. You know what I mean?
Nah,
like,
for sure.
It's just how it is. And it's cool now because when we see each other, like we'll hit each other up to go ride and like hang out or like whatever, you know what I mean? Like we're good.
And it comes down to ego, you know, and there's so many different
100%.
So many forms of ego.
There is.
But like with a situation like that, where you do feel like you're being wronged, it almost takes one of the parties to be like exactly what you just said. Like the small stuff, man. Like, is this really affecting my life? Not really. The decision you made definitely hurt my feelings. But I think at the time, if I would have just been like, hey man, like that actually really hurt and had a straight up like man-to-man conversation about it. Yeah. There's so much that can be solved with that. But like with us, it's so much ego and there's so much tension and like fight that.
And at the same time, it was hard to address it because it's like,
that's your bro.
Well, and we were filming remember I had that TV show for a little bit on VH1.
Yep.
I forgot the name of it, but we had a TV show and we were filming. And that same weekend, I showed up to the truck race and I'm going to win my championship. And someone from the Militia crew came over and was like, hey, you can't pit with us this weekend. I'm like, what? I'm about to win the championship. This is my pit. This is my team. And they're like, you can't pit with us this weekend and you can't film under our tent. And I'm like, that's when I was like, fuck all you guys.
Yeah,
like,
fair enough.
you know, and if Brian would have just walked up to me and been like, hey, this is what's going on, we could have squashed it.
Yeah.
But it's just not how it went down. Do I wish it went down a different way? Yeah, I totally do. Because I looked at Mulisha like, oh, I'll be in Mulisha my whole life. Like I'll always be a part of Mulisha, you know? And we built something great together. Like a group of friends that had a lot of fucking fun doing it.
We all loved each other too.
Yeah,
bro.
we all did anything for each other. Like
brothers,
when I
bro.
got back from Dew Tour from breaking both my legs, Deegan and Feister, they're carrying in my house, put me on my couch because I don't have a wheelchair yet.
Yeah.
Bringing me over food. You know what I mean? Like we were one big family. So do I wish the outcome would have been different? 100%, but it is what it is. You know what I mean? Like that's life. And we're good now. So to me, that's all that really counts.
Yeah, man, some doors got to close, you know, as hard as it is to believe or want to have happen.
Yep.
Some doors professionally have to close.
Yeah.
And the longer we try to hold on to them, the more mistakes we continue to make.
Like going back to like the ego thing you said too, I think it was at the time, like everyone was starting to grow away from each other and everyone was getting big deals. Everyone's getting dope cars, big ass houses. And like, I think you start focusing on your own shit and you're not really worried about like, oh, whatever, he's all right. You know what I mean? Like, so to go from like how tight of a group it was to everyone just like going their own ways kind of bummed everyone out for sure.
Yeah.
One thing I want to jump in on this before we move from Metal Mulisha is because that was such an impactful part of the culture of moto and freestyle and kind of just that whole like image as a whole.
Yeah.
I had a paintball park in Chino, SC Village paintball park. And at the time, like everybody in the Inland Empire, San Bernardino, Riverside, like that whole area, you wore Metal Mulisha. If you didn't wear Metal Mulisha and you owned a truck, like you probably would get stabbed. Like that was like the rules.
Dude, you would see it everywhere.
There was like a small
I still
period.
see it around. Yeah. I live in Temecula, so it's like the mecca of dirt bikes. So I still see Mulisha stuff 100%. All the time.
And I know you guys weren't a gang, but like you guys for sure went to X Games knowing like, yo, we're here just to cause chaos and ruckus, right? Like,
and we knew if we did that, we were going to get TV time.
But like, did you guys as a team like go to this event and be like, we're gonna go jump this guy today, or was it more of just like, let's just be chaotic? Whatever
happened. You know, I remember doing a show. I remember doing a demo down here in Irvine, like at the end of the toll roads one year. They had a bunch of bands playing, and someone threw a drink through the fence at us, and I remember Deegan and Tyler Evans parked their bike on the fence, jumped over, and we started fighting the crowd. Everyone just parked their bikes and it got into like the gnarliest fight, like. But we all had each other's back. If one dude fought, everyone was fighting.
And we all have helmets on. Yeah. It's like the best way to go into a fight is with a full.
Someone like these drunk dudes were throwing beers at us when we would ride by, and they finally had enough. We were like, all right, let's go. Yeah, the leader said we're doing this.
Yeah. And you guys, obviously in today's time, if you even touch someone, you're going to jail for life because
you can't even
fight.
say someone about someone or you get in trouble.
Back then, I feel like X Games encouraged it.
Well, like kind of,
it was always on TV when you guys were fighting.
If you think about it, it's a TV show. So if there's drama, they want it.
Yeah.
It sells tickets.
Well, I shouldn't say encourage it, but I felt like it was like we were watching X Games waiting for like the Mulisha to start some chaos. Like Sheckler's going to win a gold and we're going to go see Pastrana do something wild and Mulisha's going to fight the entire, like anybody they don't like.
We definitely had a bad rap there. I remember like there was so many sponsors that like right towards like the end of Mulisha, when I was still winning shit and I was part of them, I started getting like deals. Like Echo wanted to do a deal, which was cool because I rode for Metal Mulisha as my clothing company, and Deegan was like, yo, go for it. You're still part of Mulisha. We don't care if you run an Echo logo and wear Echo shit. Just do something Mulisha for us, you know?
Yeah, make sure it's black.
Yeah, exactly. Make sure it's black. Yeah. And then, so right around then was like...
You made Echo real cool, dude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, Rich Swisher...
By the way.
Rich Swisher was my manager at the time. Yeah. Probably the best manager I've ever had in my whole career. And he went to all these big companies. He went to Thor. He went to Yamaha. He talked to everyone. He was like, hey, like, I'm representing Jeremy now. He's going to do this. This is his plan. And a lot of people were like, don't touch that kid with the 10-foot pole. Like, he's bad for our business. His image is terrible. And that was like when I was cleaning my stuff up. Like right when I got hurt really bad is when I started going to church again. And I was like, you know what? I'm like, I need to change my life right now. And I'm like, I'm going to change it now. And I started going to church all the time. And I don't know what it was. Like my whole life just turned around. I started winning everything.
Let's call it what it is, man. It's Jesus.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Like I started winning everything. Like I was just happier. I didn't have any like negativity in my life. And when we went to these sponsors and told them like, hey, give us a 1-year deal and let us prove to you, this is what I'm going to do. And this is how I'm going to be. And that's like when I started winning everything. And so just all the sponsors just started coming and coming. Cause for the longest time, people were like, we ain't touching these dudes. Like we were rough.
You find
it's a phase,
Jesus and
bro.
you start winning.
It's a phase of life, you know? It's a phase of life. I mean, bro, you find Jesus, you start winning. Yes. But in
it's
life,
not just that. It's in life.
No, that's
exactly.
what I mean.
Like
you start
your
winning.
relationships,
Like, not just
the way you
competitions,
look
everything.
at people, your forgiveness, like your forgiveness of yourself. Like, okay, you know, you realize like
you don't hold on to stuff, you know,
bro. Like Jesus,
if I'm worried about something, I pray about it now, and I'm like,
sure,
you know, like if it's meant to be, it will be.
Yeah, Jesus didn't come for the righteous. He came for the sick. The sick need a doctor. The righteous do not need a doctor. You know,
we were all sick as hell.
Mark 2:17, bro. He came for us. He came for the sinners.
Same thing with you. I feel like the minute you started really aligning yourself mentally, spiritually, like Thrasher just announced you yesterday as a Skater of the Year, you know, nominee, and you had one of the best
After
parts.
how many years?
After
a lot of years,
right? Like,
yeah.
And I'm not even trying to like, you know, play it up real quick, but say what it is. How many skaters at your age could still be that impactful in the sport as a skater?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, bro, you're still doing it, and it's the same concept.
You look at most of these sports now and like how young the kids are. They're like you when you started, you know what I mean? But it's like to keep ourselves relevant. I'm 42. And like, I feel like I've done a damn good job and keep myself relevant. Like,
straight up.
I just told Checo that the other day, bigger than you've ever been. I just saw a video of yours the other day, had like 200,000 likes. Everybody loves you. Your brand's at an all-time high. Yep. And social doesn't dictate if you have a big brand, but it definitely dictates if people are interested in watching your content. And it's amazing. He's doing the same thing.
And I think the biggest part for me right now too, with staying relevant is like, I've been working with my buddy Keith Sayers. He does all the demos for Monster. He does like 80 something demos a year. And I remember a couple years back, I wasn't riding, I was racing trucks, and he paid me to come up to this like bare knuckle fight with motorcycle demo. He's like, just come sign autographs, bring a jersey to do a giveaway. I'm like, all right, cool. And I was sitting there. He's like, you need to start riding again, dude. He's like, come ride some shows with me. And I was like, all right. And he got me back into riding. And literally now, like every time I ride my bike, it's because I want to. I see Vicky, Taka, Wanky, everyone riding in my backyard. They ride in my house 3-4 days a week, and I'll be sitting there drinking coffee. I'm like, I'm gonna go ride with everyone today. That looks fun. So it's like when I throw my leg over my bike now, it's for fun. Back then it was for work and for money. It was a job. And like right now I'm having the most fun I've ever had in my career just riding my bike when I want to. But I ride my bike almost every single day now. I ride more.
That's why that's where, kind of going back to what Bear was just talking about, that's the only reason that this last 3-4 years has been the way it has been for me. For one, cleaning up my act and extracurricular activities that were holding me back, drinking, you know, giving my life to the Lord, and then following that as best as I can, you know, and I fail daily. I fail daily at like taking my will back and like, all right, Lord, like, I'm sorry. I'm coming back. I'm coming back to your will, because my will does not work. And I've realized this over my career. It's like, I've used it to my benefit at times to get one track mind and just super intense and like not really fun to be around. I've been able to turn that into results. But what are results? You know, like I think about it all the time. I'm like, cool, I got all these X Games trophies, dude, or like medals. They're in like a guest room in a closet that they don't mean anything.
I kept mine in a shoebox my whole career because I never wanted to see them.
Like they're
they're still in my garage right now in one of my cabinets in like a plastic bin.
I'm not taking those when I die. When I die, I'm not taking my medals. I'm not taking any of the money. I'm not taking anything. And what I want to leave is like, he was a good person. He cared about other people. He did a bunch of stuff in silence that nobody saw for other people's benefit to build. I want to build other human beings, and I want to possibly give them the opportunity to like meet Jesus Christ in their own way. Because my relationship with the Lord, your relationship, they're all going to be different. Yeah. Because God's like, we're all unique. Yep. He wants to help us. But like once I started realizing that, I was like, okay, now I want to skate again. Yep. Now it's not a job. Like you said, it's not a job anymore.
You feel like a little kid again. Like,
and then I was able to put that video part out. And it was like, okay. And then like got nominated for like, Skater of the Year, which is super dope. Like I'm almost more like just thank you for like putting my name in there. Yeah. That's cool. I won't win. I get that. But like, I appreciate it, you know? But then like got nominated for like best trick of the year too. So like all of a sudden it was like, okay, cool. Everything that I did and sacrificed and like was not rushing and was patient for is slowly starting to pay off. Yeah. It's cool. It's super cool.
Yeah.
I feel like what was hard for you too is like with you being such a badass at such a young age and winning everything, like there was always like this pressure on you to do good. You know what I mean? So
I was like the Metal Militia.
Yeah.
Be the best.
that ain't,
I was the bad guy.
and being that young, like that ain't easy to deal with. You know what I mean? Like,
I felt like the bad guy, man.
You weren't the bad guy.
I got more.
You were young, bro. You what
but
is
that
there
hate,
to be expected?
bro. That hate at such a young age is so crazy.
I think it was more of jealousy.
It's jealousy.
I
It's
get
not
that.
hate. You
You know,
look like a little.
they hate you 'cause they're
model,
jealous.
And you were like 15. You had diamond
Good looking
chains,
kid, ripped it.
Ferrari
Like,
on PCH. You don't even have a license. Like, bro, what do you mean? Of course, everybody was jealous. I was pissed.
Yeah.
I'm in a Lincoln Navigator. This guy's going 100 miles by me. I'm like, bro, my car could fit 7, and he has 7 girls in his, and I got no one in mine.
he bought that just having fun too.
Yeah, bro. One thing I want to touch upon, because both of you guys are so accomplished and such legends, and honestly, I forgot to even start off with this. I appreciate you coming here to the Jackson podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Sheckler obviously gets the best guest, so guys, make sure you guys leave some comments and tell Sheckler thank you. But you guys are like some of the most accomplished X Games athletes, and you guys kind of rewrote history of action sports in a way. You guys come from the era where people wanted to be like you.
Yep.
People wanted to be a professional skater for a living. Now people want to skate to make money and make content, but they don't want to be like a professional skater. Not everybody, but some of them. Same thing with moto and same thing with action sports in general. It's a unique era. Like they're more focused on making content and sponsorship and money rather than like when I was younger and I was in Chino and I would hear like, oh my God, all those Metal Militia guys are in Temecula and wine country down there and they're riding at homes. I'm like, that's an incredible lifestyle. He has a skate park in his backyard and then he has a skate park in a warehouse in the middle of nowhere. Like incredible stories, right? It's not like that anymore. Before we transition, like, was there an era like there's a rumor that like Metal Militia got banned in the Inland Empire in the schools? Is that true?
So many schools, like they could not, if you show up to school, they'd make you turn your shirt inside out or they'd make you put your gym shirt on.
Because they thought you were a gang?
Yeah. They're like,
let's be real. Metal Militia was a gang.
That's what I'm saying. Like
we were a
this era
gang
is
that was
insane.
good at what we did on dirt
Yeah,
bikes.
straight up, dude.
But
Straight
how
up.
many of you were there at the height of Metal Militia?
Oh God, probably 20, 25.
And you
like
always moved together?
always.
It's
Everyone rolled
savages,
together.
bro.
We rode
Savages.
together.
I was scared of them.
We would meet up every morning, ride together. Some of the dudes would hurt and go train MMA or go boxing, jiu-jitsu. Me and Scummy would just go smoke weed and eat Del Taco all day and then go back and go ride again before dark and meet all the dudes. Like everyone had their thing, but we hung out every day. Like we all spent every holiday together. Like it was one big ass family.
I remember I went to a UFC viewing party in Dana Point because Metal Militia was sponsoring RIP, a great fighter, Shane.
Yep.
And, and I remember going down there to a viewing party at the White House or something to watch him fight. And I was like, damn, Metal Militia is on like fighter. Like you guys really were that like.
We would roll deep everywhere and we were a part. Yeah. It was like I said, there were so many different dudes. So there were so many other people that could relate to someone in the crew. Yeah. You know,
it was way before its time. I really wish that could have been something that came into this era when you have content.
You can't have it. You can't have it in this era.
Yeah.
And kind of like what we touched on before.
I try to take bits and pieces of that for Jackson, to be honest. I always talk about that. I do in meetings.
That's cool.
The generation we grew up in, or, you're a little bit older than me, not much at all, but like when we were coming up, the Dew Tour, beginning of the Dew Tour, like 2003 to 2013, that 10-year span, nobody will ever live that style of life again.
So many events, no internet. Like you didn't have internet. You didn't have an app you could talk to your buddy on.
There was no cameras on the phone.
Like
there was no cameras on the phone.
Nothing. So it was like you sat there like this and watched the contest, not like this.
No,
you knew
you knew where everybody was.
It is.
You knew what room people were in at the hotel. Everybody was in the same hotel.
Yep.
Everybody was at the same party, and it always was like moto and skate against BMX. Always.
I don't know what it was with that either. I have no clue.
Because everybody knows that. That's like the unwritten law.
Yeah.
Moto and skate's gonna roll together, and then BMX is gonna get smoked.
I don't know if we just like what was weird is like I loved BMX, so I loved watching Mira and Nyquist and TJ Lavin, like all those dudes. But I think it was Deegan. He always had beef with someone. I don't remember if it was. I remember when he got in a fight at Gravity Games. I don't know if it was Mira and.
Well,
DMC.
those are two alphas, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Those are just two alphas.
Something happened, and I know he went to jail and he missed the contest.
Yeah,
But that was a crazy era too, because no one ever talks about that. Like it was always, the moto and the skate guys just went and beat up some dude on a bike, and it's like, why always are the BMX guys
together,
getting beat up? Yeah,
I don't know, man. I just like there was one party in Orlando at one of the finals of a Dew Tour, and I think it was like a wrap-up party, but they would do a wrap-up party before my event. So it'd be like on a Saturday night and I competed on Sunday.
Yeah.
But we were there anyways. I was young. But there was always beef with BMXers, dude. And there was a huge fight that popped off, and all the skaters just rallied together, and like we handled business, bro. And I won the competition the next day. I was going straight off of adrenaline into the next day.
Such a
rad.
crazy
But it's so
era.
old, man. It's like, and I look back at it now, I'm like, man, it's so stupid.
No, but it was a time. It was a
But
time you guys didn't know better.
It made you who everyone always like, you regret anything you did growing up? I'm like, no, because it made me the man I am today.
For sure.
If I wouldn't have had that experience,
Yeah.
my life could have been completely different than what it is. I wouldn't view shit the same. Like,
Or you couldn't help anyone through a situation that you've been through. You need to go through these situations to be able to pass it on.
Yeah.
you do. And that was one thing I loved about my sport. It's like, if it wasn't for Metzger and Deegan and Feist and like my buddy, my dad's buddy, Navy Mike, and my buddy Ron Milky letting me borrow their bikes or taking me to events to do stuff. I'm like, giving me an opportunity to come ride the course that no one else had. Like, I wouldn't be in the position I am right now. So I try to do that to my whole crew that's around me all the time. If I'm talking to someone getting a deal, I'm like, hey, what about Vicky? What about Wanky? What about Taka? You know what I mean? Like, I'm always throwing my friends' names out there because I would want them to do the same for me. And I looked at it like, if those dudes didn't help me in my career when they did, I probably wouldn't be here doing what I do for a living.
Before we ask about your DBK, and I know Ryan has some stuff he wanted to touch upon, there was a time where everybody also wore like a Metal Mulisha t-shirt. It wasn't just a gang and you guys weren't just winning, but the brand itself was massive. Do you have any idea how many shirts or how big the brand was at its height?
I heard when La Jolla Group licensed it, like, I don't know what year it was in, but I heard they are doing, it was either 60 or 80 million a year.
Metal
So,
Mulisha.
yeah.
Wow.
When La Jolla Group did the licensing deal and put them into every single store, every market, like good marketing, like spending money, you know, like Mulisha.
That's when 60, 80 million meant something back then.
Yeah, Mulisha was huge, like huge. And for me, like when I did my deal,
Massive.
2 weeks later, I went and got a Metal Mulisha tattoo on my neck. I was 17 years old.
Wow.
I remember the video of that.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, so I was like, I was dedicated.
And at that time, did anybody, and just to touch on the business part, because I do want to ask you some business questions about your brand, and Ryan has said a lot of times, and he's been really influential with me and Jackson and kind of giving me a lot of great advice on how to work with certain athletes and stuff. But one thing, like with the brand, did you ever go to them and say, hey, yo, dude, like I'm doing this, I want equity, or hey, I'm doing this for content? Because there was not social at the height it is now. Like, how was the business side handled as you guys were being mutants at these events?
Back then for Mulisha?
Yeah.
I had nothing to do with any of that. That was like, Brian was the brains of it. Like him and Larry started it.
Legend.
And Brian was the one that was in meetings every day. Like he's always had like a plan and like a vision. Like that's one thing I'll give Brian is he's a smart dude when it comes to marketing. You know what I mean? Like
Insane.
He keeps himself relevant.
He could ride, he could fight, he could
He could
make
drive,
business
like
moves,
yeah, exactly.
he could
Like
drive.
he's a good business dude. So when we were out fucking off, he's the one going to all these meetings. Like, hey, I got us a deal with Tech Deck. Remember Tech Deck? Like, here's some toys. Hey, I got us a deal with No Fear in this energy drink was going to pay me this much money, but I said, hey, sign my 3 boys with me and I'll take a little bit less and you can pay them with it. Like that's how it was back then.
Oh, so
like
he was doing crazy deals like that.
Yeah, hell yeah. Like
for sure.
Like everyone had each other's backs, you know,
Because
like
a lot of people don't know the ins and out on the business side. And I was reading some comments when I was looking up some Metal Mulisha facts, and some of the people were saying like, how come Deegan made all the money? And then you go read and it's like, but look at all these things he did for his team.
Yeah.
And I feel like the guy should get enough credit. He was a pioneer of action sports brand.
100%.
Like, the guy doesn't get any credit for this. In the history books, they talk about Volcom and Hurley and Quicksilver. It's like, bro, Metal Mulisha pierced through a market that no one had ever even thought of.
No, we changed the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like as a whole, but he was the dude that was going to all the meetings while we were all just screwing off and riding our dirt bike and making money, you know?
But from Metal Mulisha, Echo became something that was so sick because they trusted the fact that like, oh, it's coming from Metal Mulisha.
Yeah.
Like, Twitch is from this sickness.
And
like,
still part of it.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Like, okay, Echo's dope.
They're next. I remember you had the Echo sticker on your plate, and you had the Etnies red hat when you won
Yep.
that gold.
Oh yeah.
And were you with Etnies too at the time when he won the gold?
I've been on Etnies since I was 7 years old, bro. So for sure.
Wow. Yeah, I mean the only reason why anybody wears Etnies is because of this guy. I remember two of the biggest content creators like in the world. I won't say their name. They were in here the other day. They're from Miami. They have massive amount of following. They're like, yeah, dude. The only reason why I still buy Etnies is because Ryan still wears them. And I was like, I got to send this video to Ryan. I sent it to him, but
Yeah, it was dope.
It's funny. I broke out a pair of my old Etnies, my signature shoes yesterday and wore them. We remodeled my house this year and I had all my shoes on this bookcase and I haven't put that room back together. And I looked over in the box. And I'm like, man, those are 11s. I'm like, let me open the box. I'm like, oh shit, these are fresh. I wore them. Like it brought back some memories for sure.
Yeah. I know. And
being a motorcycle dude, designing your own shoe.
Yeah.
I had so many shoes. Like it would go on the Jameson model. It would go on your model. It would go on everyone's. And I designed my own that looked like a Nike Cortez, but it was puffier back then. You know what I mean? Like
Cortez, bro.
with like full paisley print. Like I always loved bandana stuff. Like,
and this was before an era where now every brand is like trying to get guest designers and have them design shoes. Like Etney was a little bit ahead of its time when it came to action sports and how they use footwear with their athletes and merge that. Not a lot of brands can figure out how to merge their brand and their athletes together.
No, it's hard. Yeah, and that was some of the funnest thing is designing shoes. I'm like, I ride a motorcycle and I'm getting to design tennis shoes. I'm like, these dudes want to pay me to wear a shoe that I don't even use at my job. I'm like,
it's beautiful.
This is amazing. And like
beautiful.
Like picking the materials, picking the sole, picking everything. You're like, this is a rad experience, dude.
It is fun.
Yeah,
to do that.
That was cool.
As we go into the chapter of like you leaving Metal Mulisha, obviously we know that, and then you obviously have your own brand now.
Yep.
And Ryan, you have your own brand too. I'd love to ask you guys, even each other, like, have you seen a lot of the influence of this like old X Game era? It's having a huge resurgence in terms of people looking towards you guys as like the North Star of how to take their careers out of the light right now and like go into this next level of having their own brand or having content or social. Have you seen a lot of people from that era of X Games now starting to come back to want to work with your brand or work with you with your brand and what you have going on?
Yeah, it's been weird. Like I don't know. I'd say yes and no, but for me now, I feel like the times are so much different now. And it's like I'll get hit up. I'll get email after email. Like, oh, let us do your fulfillment. Let us do your this. Let us do your that. I'm like, why? They're like, we know how busy you are. You can't do it. I'm like, I'm not busy. I take my daughter to school every day. I ride motorcycles. I go to the shop for a couple hours. Like I help design shit. I'll pack orders. Like,
you're like, I've been doing it myself.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
how can you grow? Show me how you can grow.
Yeah. And everyone's always
my
like,
brand.
I'm like, they're like, oh, how'd you come up with this? I'm like, honestly, I was just sitting on Instagram one day. I screenshotted this shirt because I like these colors and I just changed it and I flipped it to mine. You know what I mean? Like for the longest time with our brand, we didn't have a full-time artist. We had my buddy Max and Jose, who used to be like the head art directors at Famous from back in the day.
Oh, wow.
And I would send them screenshots of like, yo, on a Monday, we would go into, when we first started DBK, we started it. Well, I started DBK back in like 2011. Like after the Mulisha stuff, I was like, I'll do my own shit, you know? And then we were packing orders out of the garage. I think it maybe did like $80,000 for the year. And I was like, I don't have time for this. Like, so just put it on the back burner, still had the license, like I had all the stuff, went and rode for a few different brands. And then at the end of my hostility deal, they weren't paying me what the contract said. So I was like, what am I missing out on? I'm tired of like relying on sponsors for my own being. I'm like, fuck this. And my buddy Tim, he was at Famous when Travis started it. He used to be his drum tech. And when I was at Famous, he ran all my whole program. And he would see all my numbers through like Tilly's and Zoomies and the website. And the day I left Famous, he was always like, dude, let's start DBK. Let's start DBK. And for the next 3 or 4 years, every single week I would get a call. Hey, you ready to do DBK? And to the point where I would see him call him, like, I ain't answering this call. I know what he's going to say. I'd be like, what up? He's like, let's do DBK. So when I quit hostility, I was sitting there. I'm like, I'm tired of relying on other people to make my money. Like, what if something happens and I get hurt and these dudes fire me? I'm like, what am I going to do then? So I called Tim. I'm like, yo, let's do DBK. He goes, I'm on my way down. Hung up the phone, drove to my house, and we're like, how are we going to start this? I'm like, let's just do a pre-order and see. Like, we're like, what do we do on quantities? What do we do on sizes? Like, well, I don't want to have too many smalls or too many 4Xs. And we're like, let's just do a pre-order and see what happens over the week. And we'll do a 2-week pre-order.
That's the hard thing with inventory. It's like to know.
Yeah, you don't want to be sitting on a couple $100,000 worth of stuff that's not selling. Or you may think the artwork's dope, but the consumer does it. You know what I mean? Like, that's the hardest part. Like, sometimes I'll design something where I'm like, this is so sick. And it'll sell like 500 shirts barely, you know.
Yeah,
you're like,
you got to do the 100-piece orders. I mean, with skateboarding, it's a little different with the boards, you know.
So we did that first pre-sale. We got like 500 orders in a day, and we're like, oh shit. So we've never put money into the company. We've always put it back into the company. So we started with 500 orders. We took that money, went and bought all the stuff. We ran it out of my house for 9 months, and that first year in the 9 months, we did about $900,000. And we're like, we just did this from my formal living room, but it turned into my formal dining room. And then it turned into my hallway and then both of my garages. And my wife was like, I was right away. I'm like, we need a warehouse because I wanted to do shit like this. I wanted to build cool shit. I wanted to have a spot where all my homies would stop by and hang out and just like kick it, you know? I'm like, it's perfect for content. And she was always like, we don't have any overhead right now. Let's just chill. I was like, all right, I got to be smart about this, you know? Yeah, so we chilled. And then finally, and what's hard about it is having a business and being an owner and having it at your house. We would never get away from work. We would come home from a dinner. We would have some drinks and we're sitting there. We're like, oh fuck, there's 300 orders. Let's start on them now. You work till midnight, 2 a.m. I wake up, I go out and get a cup of coffee. I'm like, I better get a start on orders. I'll start doing orders. And so for me, when we finally got to the warehouse, I was like, okay, I need to have a plan every day I go there. Okay. I'm going to go in, I'm going to work on artwork, and then I'm going to ship orders, and then I'm going to kick it with my buddies, and then I'm going to ship some more orders, and then I'm going to go home and I'm going to film a bunch of stuff. And I still got to go ride. I still got to go pick up my kids from school. I still got to go spend time with my wife. So once we got the warehouse, things started rolling good where we were like, okay, like we had 2 racks, then we went to 4 racks, and then we went to 15 racks. Now we're like, okay, we need a bigger building. What the hell are we going to do? We're like, oh, let's downsize on our orders. And if it sells out, we'll just reorder it and it will create more of a demand for it. And so a lot of times, like we'll let stuff sell out on purpose. So there's that demand of wanting it, and we're all right.
Well, then there's the secondary resale market where you start seeing the shirt that got bought for $75.
Yes.
It's up somewhere for 150.
See it all the time.
You're like, oh, okay.
When we started seeing that, that's when we're like, oh, this is sick.
Yeah.
Like, we're making it. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I've watched it. I've admired it. I mean, all I do is work. Yeah. I'm gracious to do this podcast with Ryan. We have so many different shows on here, but like all we do is talk about brand and business all day, and
I love it.
Life. It's amazing. But I've seen what you guys have done, and it's admiring, it's inspiring, bro. Like you've been able to stay so relevant, but also be so efficient. Because how many athletes try to do brands, but they don't care, or they try to do something, they don't really put any effort behind it.
It's hard.
Same with him. I watch him do Sandlot. He's going all in. I'm like, dude, it's amazing.
But the problems with, I feel like the problems athletes have with starting brands is they don't know the business. And to know the business, you need to work there. You need to ship orders. You need to make mistakes. Like I remember we bought these chairs from China. We made these dope ass custom chairs. Sample came, it was sick. They were this tall. Instead of being like a normal size chair, we're like, what the hell are we going to do with these? Like, we're like, okay, well, there's 10 grand that we're not using, you know, like, so to make those mistakes. And a lot of these athletes just have a manager in their ear or someone like, oh, we can do this, we can do that. We'll have a fulfillment house do it. And someone else do that. It's like, no, like if your brand's going to work, you need to be there. You have to,
you have to do it.
You have to be a part of it. You have to work your ass off. Like, and that's what that's how I thought about it. Like I'm a sophomore in high school still. I never graduated high school, but I was really smart from growing up on the streets. And I went from one neighborhood that was straight hood and another hood that was all racist as hell. So I saw both sides right away. And I'm like, I learned smart, watch your back. Don't fuck with this dude. This dude's cool. You know what I mean? Like, so when I got in the business of, I'm like, if I take 50% of the amount of effort I put into being an athlete and doing what I do, how could I not succeed? That was that was my game changer right there. I'm like, if I put 50% into this, why can I not do it? Yeah. And you don't know until you try.
No, you don't know.
A lot of people are so scared to try, but it's like, so in your head, always like, no, I can't do that. It's like, no, I'm going to try it. And if I fail, I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to make it work. Cause there's been times with DBK where I'm like, fuck, I'm over it. Like we barely have any money in the bank. Sales weren't good this month. And then boom, we're like, oh shit, we're back. Like we just dropped something that everyone loved. You know what I mean? So it's like, I love the aspect of creating something, marketing it, and then trying to sell it to everyone and making everybody like it.
For sure. Do you think there's also an aspect of like how your career was, how my career was, what it took to land the trick that you wanted to land, the trial and error of understanding that failure is key to success? It is. You have to fail to succeed. You have to watch countless hours of videos of you trying to do a kickflip. Yep. You know what I mean? Like that was my one thing. People don't understand, like I said, you always get the must be nice. It's like, yeah, but you don't understand how much stuff I've sacrificed, how many holidays I didn't go to because I'm in Spain riding a contest, how many Thanksgivings I didn't get to go to because I'm over here, or I'm in a hospital with broken legs stuck on the East Coast, so I don't get to see my family for this, you know, like think about how much time we've spent recovering.
Yeah.
Years. I've spent years and you've spent much longer, much longer. But like, bro, like there's been years of time collectively of recovering from injuries.
For sure.
And that time I've used most of that time to like learn something about myself or learn something about a business, learn something about a process that like I didn't have enough time to learn while I was in my sport.
You wouldn't have ever took that time because you didn't have it.
I wouldn't have it.
Now, I remember I used to get so pissed when I get hurt. Like the first time I broke both my legs. 2 weeks later, my chick's gone at the grocery store. She comes home. She's like, where the hell are you at? And I'm like, I drove over to Deegan's to go watch everyone ride. She goes, how the fuck did you drive there when you have 2 broken legs? I'm like, I broke a stick in half and I taped it to the gas pedal and I taped the other one to the brake pedal and I got my wheelchair out and dismantled it, threw it in my car and drove over there with my hand on the stick for the gas pedal. Cause I couldn't sit still. I didn't want to be home. Like I was going crazy, you know?
Sure. Wait, why do you need to do all this? You just loved it? You had to go get it?
Yeah, I wanted to go watch all my buddies ride. I got tired of you're so used to working your ass off.
I had to learn how to drive with my left foot. I broke my right ankle and then I would like turn it to the side and like, same thing. My mom's like, where are you? I'm like, I'm going to get groceries. She's like, how are you driving? Same thing. I cannot sit still, but until you learn how to sit still, that's where the glory is.
And like back to your point, like I don't feel like I would be as successful as I am right now without my motorcycle and going through the working your ass off and not just quitting or giving up or someone being like, hey, I have this idea. I want to do this. You can't do that. I've seen it so many times with like friends and family members of like, your cousin wants to jump this jump. You can't jump that. You're going to get hurt. And they listen to that. But I'm like, you got to speak for yourself. If you want to do something, go do it.
Well, that's the intuition part too. It's like, okay, I can hear other people saying something, but if I can get myself to a point where I'm like, I'm really in tune, I'm really present. If I can hear that like conscience telling me like, yeah, you got this. Yep. It's going to be gnarly. That's all I need. I don't care what anybody else says.
No.
And most of the gnarly tricks, people have told me like, don't, why? But I know here, like, I don't know.
Costin can't land that. You think you're going to land that?
Like, it's like, I know.
People, you hear that.
I know I can do it.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes some of my big injuries have been from ignoring that, where it's like, hey, not right now.
Yeah.
Like, you can do this, but not right now.
But you're so hyped, you go for it anyways.
I'm so hyped, and then I've, broke both my ankles and my back, and I was like,
maybe I should have.
I had a twitch fall. Yeah, I broke both my feet and my back too in one fall. That's what's up.
I did it twice.
Yeah, I got that from you. I only wanted to do it once.
Yeah, I did it at
I only need one.
I only needed one, but I was like, let me get 2. I did it at Dude Tour, and then Carrie Hart, we were riding Speed and Style at Staples Center, and I came around the corner and I was like all stoked because he got the whole shot on me. So he was smoking me the first lap, but I'm like, I know I got better tricks, so I'll win. I came around the next corner and we were going at the ramp and I went inside. I'm like, I'm going to pass his ass right now for the lead and I'm going to do a knack flip. Well, when I do a one-handed knack flip, I always hook my foot under the shifter. I'll dab it down in the first and I'll hook my foot under the shifter and hold it in the second gear. So it holds me on the bike when I'm upside down. And as I turned the corner, I was thinking I'm going to pass him and I started gassing. I'm like, oh shit, I'm doing a knack flip. So I hurry up and downshifted. And when I slid my foot underneath, I slid it really far and I clicked and it went into neutral. It didn't go all the way up because I had my foot so far in there. And so I'm going at the ramp and I'm like, oh fuck, I need to stop. And right when I went to grab my bike or my brake, I was sliding my foot out to get away from my bike. It clicked second. It's all, and I just went right to the back of the landing. You can, hey, it's on GoPro. It's on YouTube. I have a chest mount GoPro on. You could hear me hit and go, and I'm like landing on the ground. And I ended up breaking my tib fib on my left leg and shattering my heel. My heel was, have you done your heel?
That was what happened.
The worst injury in my life was my heel.
Really?
Out of every single injury I've had, the worst pain,
and it's like forever to get back because it feels squishy once you start walking again. And everything feels, it's just not natural.
Does your heel still hurt?
Oh yeah.
Mine feels like there's like a hot knife constantly burning it. Yeah. Like it always hurts.
I'll catch an edge and it's mostly on the outside of my left one.
Yep.
No.
But if I catch a weird edge or if I land too hard on my shoe and it presses between the fabric and the actual sole of the shoe right here,
it kills. Just that little bit hurts.
I'm running this little pit bike. I'm already scared. I can't imagine doing something like that.
Yeah, let's talk about that, man.
Hey, shout out to Twish.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
sickest bike in the game right here.
Jeremy brought a full DBK setup.
RNC Motorsports built. My mechanic Raul built it. He builds badass bikes.
But that thing's insane. I'm gonna rip around the office later. I'm gonna try to do it.
Barry got a pit bike that he does not need.
No, I'm gonna do a wheelie through the office today. By the end of the day, I'm gonna land a wheelie and then I'm gonna post on Instagram and tag you. And I'm gonna tag DBK.
He said he's gonna land a wheelie.
I'm gonna land it. Well, I almost fell off the bike.
I mean, you just do a wheelie, but you can land
I'm gonna land it. I'm gonna land like I'm gonna go and I'm gonna land it like
I
back
get it.
on one wheel without
This is
falling.
why I love you, bro.
Well, I'm gonna
Your
land
energy
it for sure. You're
is
gonna
unmatched.
see me land it,
I
and
love
then
his energy.
I'm gonna tag him too, though. I'm gonna tag you too.
I'll repost
Because
it.
when you came here, he said, "Yo, don't get on that thing." I go, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "I was made for this. You didn't want me to get on the bike when he showed up.
I wanted you to put a helmet on.
I don't need one, bro. The difference between me and everybody else, I'm willing to die for this."
At least it's said. I want him to wear a helmet when he's on this
No,
big bike.
I was there at the Butterfinger Open in 2003, and Globe had a booth there. And I remember walking up to these dudes. Remember the shoe company Globe?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And there was all these guys doing freestyle motocross tricks. And I asked the guy, I was like, "Yo, can I grab your bike?" The guy goes, "You touch my bike, I'll kill you."
Who
And
was it?
I was like 12. I don't know.
It was Deegan.
Yeah, holy Deegan. And I remember looking at him and I'm like, wow, that's epic. He's willing to die for this because I was going to touch it and see if he'd kill me. We'd fight. And then I remember my dad being like, "Don't be an idiot, bro. Go back over there." It was at our paintball park. He's like, "What are you doing? You're causing chaos." So for the rest of my life, I'm like, freestyle motocross taught me you got to die for what you want. Shout out to that.
It's gnarly.
You want that?
I mean, we might end it on that.
Yeah, no, I got one more thing. I can't end it on that. I got to ask him one more thing.
Let's go.
Between like 2011, 2015, you went on a tear, right?
Yep.
First, seconds, killing it. You had like this whole rebrand. And a lot of people were kind of like, not rebrand, but a lot of people were looking at you in a different light. I feel like you were on your own.
Yep.
And for people that don't know, like I'm not a historian on motocross and freestyle, but obviously I grew up watching this with Ronnie and these guys. And I love Deck James. This is my favorite thing growing up. We had no social media. That's all you watched as a kid. That's all you wanted.
You waited for it to come on TV.
Yeah.
That's all you wanted as a kid.
It was the best.
It's a different era now. They do it like in people's backyards and stuff. I still love X Games, but it's nothing will compare to that.
Yeah.
You went through this like rebrand. You're winning everything. You're like your own person. You're on top of the world, unique sponsors and stuff. And you also, towards your career, you had a bunch of TV shows and reality shows and things you were on. And you had one of the most iconic reality shows of all time, one of the first reality shows, which propelled you to being one of the biggest superstars. I mean, there was a thing on OK Magazine or Us Weekly voted him like the most popular teen of like the 2000s or something.
Insane.
Insane. And there was like, and it's not a big deal. It's a different era. I know, like it's not a big deal. And it was a great show, obviously. I lived a few.
I always watched it.
Everybody did. What
It was crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
What was like the most impactful show, or what was like the most impactful like reality event that you did that you were like, "Oh wow, this is crazy. This really like helped my career." Did you hate the TV stuff?
I hated the TV stuff. Did you hate the TV stuff?
Not at first.
Not at first. At first, it's fun.
At first,
you're with your
fun.
homies. Yeah.
But then the chatter.
Yeah.
Then all this chatter.
See,
starts
I didn't
coming.
really get the chatter, but I got the, "Hey, can you say that again?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "No, I'm not saying that again." I'm like, they're like, "Oh, well, can you start a fight with your wife today?" I'm like, "Why? I don't fight with my wife." I'm like, "So I look like a dickhead on TV?" I'm like, "I have an image to uphold." I'm like, "I don't need this TV show." I'm like, "I have a career." I'm like, "I'm just doing it because I thought it was going to be fun, and my other homies are doing it, and my wife wanted to do it." So I was like, "Yeah, let's do it."
Oh man, the A story and the B story.
There's so many times where they would show up to my house, and I would just have my gate locked so they couldn't come in.
Wow.
Because I was like, they would have like, "Oh, hey, can you cook a meal for your wife naked today wearing this apron?" I'm like, "No, it's fucking lame." I'm like, I would never do that. I'm like, I'm never going to go do something that on TV for you to get ratings that I wouldn't do in real life.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not going to go start a fight with my wife because I'm not a dickhead like that. I'm not going to go cook naked for you. You know what I mean? I'm like, there were so many things they would try to get us to do where I'm like,
That's weird.
yeah. I'm like, I'm not. So it's so many times I would lock the door or I'd take off to go ride. They're like, "Where you at?" I'm like, "I'm practicing. I have a contest this weekend." Like, this comes first before any of this. I told you guys this from the beginning. And it was weird because like what the show started out as, it was supposed to be like behind the scenes of what it takes a family whose husband or whoever is an athlete in the family. So it was supposed to be like the kids, the wife, like, and then they turned it into like let's do like a reality, like dating show, like let's have drama. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that shit. Like I'm not, you know?
No. Yeah. I think for me, it turned out to be like, it was super fun at first. Super fun.
Yeah.
Because it was like, I was just putting all my bros on.
Yeah.
And it was like sick that like, you know, Friday night at 10 o'clock, right after the hills, like we were on and it was like
prime time.
it was like dope.
yeah.
Like, okay, they couldn't have given us a better spot.
No.
You know, I do give credit to MTV for that and for a lot of my,
that was cool.
a lot of the following and fans for sure because of where they put us.
Yep.
You know, they put us after a show that was getting 3-4 million views on Friday, bro.
No,
like on a Friday night at 9:30. So that was cool. going to the contest, having a huge squad. Like I loved that. But
Yeah.
also that was my MO back then. Like that it was feeding my ego. It was feeding this like
The parties were crazy.
it
Yeah.
was feeding this alter ego of like, you know,
I can do anything.
I am untouchable.
Yeah.
You know, period. Like I'm gonna go wear $200,000 worth of necklaces out in super sketchy Baltimore and no one's gonna touch me, you know.
Yeah.
Like I had
Everyone knows me. Yeah.
I was like ridiculous, you know, and I thank God I never got robbed or beat up, which I did get. It's for a different time, but you know, like I lived a crazy life because of this like gaslighting that this show was doing for me or to me. But then you're right. There's a couple times where like, you know, I'm a pretty sensitive dude and by nature. And so like I had to break up with the girl on TV and I was already really like bummed about it. And I didn't want to do it on camera because I thought that was like lame.
Yeah.
And they talked me into it. I broke up with her on camera.
Get emotional.
And then they asked me to do it again. Like they asked me to do it again because they like missed the film. They wanted a different angle. And I broke up with her again on camera. And then that's when it was like, all right. This is not right. This is not what I signed up for.
I didn't want to do it once, let alone do it twice.
And on camera.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so I'm gonna.
That's like a personal, like
I'm gonna
an intimate thing. Yeah.
I'm gonna stop this, you know. And I wanted to stop, but they had me signed in
So you had to do it.
for a third season. The third season was optional for MTV. I had nothing to do with it. So we talked about that and we tried to make it right. And we filmed the third season, but you could tell in the third season it was a little lackluster.
Yeah.
All of a sudden now I started saying no a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not fighting with my mom about that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to that business meeting with Steve and starting a conflict. I don't want conflict anymore. Like I'm over this. And on top of that, like skateboarding was like, it felt like the collective of skateboarding was like ready to fight me on site.
Yeah.
Anywhere I went.
I remember that era because like you would hear people talking shit.
Bro,
Like,
and every high school party I went to, or like right when we got out of, you know, I was 17, 18-ish, you know, so it was like every high school party I went to, or like any college party I went to, like I was 100% a target. So I had to travel around. I was traveling around with like 10 dudes that like are still my bros to this day, but like they were all on the football team. They were all gnarly wrestlers. Like I traveled with security.
it was hard to enjoy yourself knowing you got the like,
Bro,
rocks
things
around
would
you the whole
pop
time.
off.
Public enemy number one.
Things would pop off at a house party, and all of a sudden it was like it's kind of like what Floyd's bodyguards do. They make this like circle around him.
Let's go.
And like I would get in the middle of this circle and they would like get me out. And it was like nothing that I caused. Like people just told everyone, and it was word of mouth. Like if Sheckler shows up here, we are knocking him out. He's gonna get jumped. And me, I probably shouldn't have gone to these.
Yeah, but
I
you
was
still
more
went
curious.
to a lot of these places.
I was more curious. Like really,
What happens?
He was still showing up though. He really didn't care.
But then, you know, I would take care of my guys and like, you know, I would take care of them, like the food and
different
hotels
era,
and
different-
shoes and like, and we were hooking each other up, but it was scary. There was definitely times it was scary for sure.
But at that time, obviously you had already been signed to Steve and you already were on X Games. Did both of you guys have a great relationship with Travis Pastrana at the time?
Yeah, I've known Travis forever, bro.
I wouldn't say a great relationship. We've always like said what up, said hi, but never like
y'all
kicked
been
it.
just competitors.
Yeah, never like
Because
kicked
you
it or
guys
anything.
just had to compete against each other nonstop.
Yeah.
So you guys
we'd
were
always
never-
give each other props. Like, oh, that was
And
dope,
they're completely different.
I know.
human
One's like the
beings.
Polish boy.
They're like completely
Yeah.
different human beings. Obviously, they're masters of their craft, but I could see where it would be like, you know, for me it was easy because Travis was like a little bit older than me, but he was a goofball and he wanted to do anything that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so we started hanging out pretty young.
You went out to his house a few times, huh?
a couple times.
I got hit up like, hey, cruise out to Travis's. I'm like, nope.
Why?
They're like, why? I'm like, because everyone goes there, gets fucked up. Someone breaks something. I'm like, they talk you into doing something you don't want to do. And I'm like,
Yep.
oh, they'll talk me into doing something I don't want to do, and I'll do it. You know? And I'm like, I'm not going out there to get hurt.
Wow.
That's how I always looked at Travis's house.
So did you guys ever become friends? Like really good friends?
Trav?
Yeah.
No, not really. We just acquaintances. Like we say what up to each other. I was on the pier when he jumped off that day. Like, you know what I mean? I was like, yeah, that's
Oh, you were there in
Yeah,
San
I was
Fran?
there. That was my very first X Games.
I was there.
Yeah.
No, you weren't there, bro.
I was there on YouTube.
On YouTube. I told you that this morning.
Bro, the first time I ever went to Pastrana's house, it was after a Gravity Games. He had gotten knocked out. I went on the bus with him back to his house. I had like dislocated my elbow. That was like something that was happening. Like Rick pulled it back in, And so like I was kind of recovering, and we get to his house. He's all groggy. So I'm all stoked. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go skate the foam pit. So I just skate in the foam pit on the indoor. And then he comes down, and it was the morning time. And he's like, all right, you're going to learn how to flip. So I learned how to flip a bicycle.
See what I mean?
I learned how to flip a bicycle. And then he put me on a 110. He's like, okay, now go out to the big pit and go flip
Just
it.
lean back.
Yeah, just go. Exactly.
Like it's easy.
And I'm like, I'm with Hubert, his main mechanic. And Hubert's like a lot different than Travis. He's like actually like,
I like Hubert. He's cool as hell. Country as hell too.
Has a heart and like cares about your feelings.
Don't want you to get hurt.
Like,
you have another contest next weekend.
And I'm so like, I don't want to let Travis down. I don't want to let him down. So I'm going to try to get this backflip. And I like start trying, and I'm just not getting there. And I'm like crying, and Hubert's like, it's okay. And Travis comes down. He's like, are you crying? Why are you crying? Just do it, dude. Just lean back. And I like got off the bike. I was like, I'm not here for this, man. I was like, all right, come on. So we got on a boat, and we're going through Annapolis, Maryland, like whatever. We're on this boat. We're going like 40 miles an hour, bro. And I'm sitting on the side of the boat, and Travis goes, oh, bro, look at that. And I like looked, and he pushes me off the boat. And I just like skipped across this
gnarly,
water,
dude.
bro. Had water in my ear. Like I could not hear out of my ear. My ribs were bruised. They're laughing. They pick me up. And I'm like, I remember that night I called my mom, and I was like, hey, I need a flight home, like immediately.
Tonight.
Like immediately. I ended up staying, and then we ended up jumping off some bridge, and like I couldn't get enough of it. Wow. But every time I've been to Travis's house was like, I either got hurt, or there was one time I went where I just said no, and I just hung out.
And actually had your best time there probably.
And then they shot me up with paintball guns, and like, no matter what, bro, it's like, no matter what, if you go there, you're either going to bleed or bruise, period.
Yeah. And that's how I always looked at his house. I'm like, no, I'm good, dude.
I love that. At least you got to experience it when you could.
Yep.
You could look at that on the bright side.
I mean, and then, now it's like, his kids are incredibly
Dude, his kids
talented,
are gnarly.
bro.
Think about growing up with a dad like that, though, that just like, hey, you can do anything.
Well, even Ann Lindsay. Like,
Yeah,
Lindsay's a
that's
pro
right. She's
skateboarder.
gnarly. She's a
amazing.
badass skater, too.
Yeah, bro. She was like a real pioneer of women's skateboarding,
Yeah.
especially in
I always remember her from like events, and I'm always like,
absolute stud.
She's a badass. Like
The fact that they are like the parents of two like gymnasts, pure athletes.
Makes sense.
I seen a video a couple months ago of his daughter driving like a Subaru through the backyard, ripping on a track where I'm like, she can barely even reach the pedals, dude.
Nah.
I'm like, no way.
Well, when those are your parents, I feel like you do get pushed into a lot of things, and he makes so much content. He's probably using them. Oh, I wonder if they could do it. All right, they could do it. I could do it.
Well, and you just like his go get it attitude. Like it makes you think you can do it. Like if your dad's telling you to go do it and you can do it, you're going to go do it.
Oh, that family's limitless in potential because they have him. He's for sure telling them, no, you could do it. Go jump. You could do it.
Well, and I think it's also like you being a dad, like me being a dad now, watching Pastrana being a dad. It's the way we react to them getting hurt.
Yeah.
That's how I react to my daughter, like getting hurt. Like she looks like she just got in a boxing match, but we don't freak out.
No, I laugh about it and I'll turn it back.
Yeah.
Like I'll always laugh. Like when they were little, I'd always laugh it off. And me and my wife would be like, oh my God, did you see that?
Yeah.
Like,
so that's what we're doing. And then I'll say it to her. I'm like, good thing you're tough.
Yep.
And then I'll look at my wife and be like,
I can't believe she's
Baby's like 7 months.
Yeah.
You're tough.
yeah, but that's what I'm going to instill in her. And bro, I saw that on social media. So
Yeah.
I don't know who said it, and I wish I could give them credit for it. It's not from me, but it was a guy talking about when he was growing up that his dad, no matter what he did, like, good thing you're tough. And it's like for any situation, like
you
falling,
think about that.
That's great advice.
falling,
Good thing I'm tough.
Yeah, falling, failing in something, like not getting the job you want. Well, good thing you're tough, and it makes you think like, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna make it through this. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. You're right.
And what's sad too is like this next generation of like the youth is like everyone wants a trophy for 10th place, where I'm like, no, I'm like, you sucked. If you want a trophy, you got to go work your ass off to get top 3. Amen. That's where the trophy's from. And it's like, that's how I've always brought my kids up. Like, if you want something, you got to work for it. I'm like, no one's going to hand you shit. I'm like, no one handed me anything. No one handed me anything. I'm like, I worked for everything I've ever had.
That's how it has to be, though. I feel like, and that's the difference in the era, even like in the X Games today, right? Like, you know, everybody always complains about judges and this. And it's like, I even saw an interview with you. You're like, yeah, the judges, maybe I had to go to them and be like, yo, what do I got to do to get a better score?
Yeah.
But you're not there complaining. You're like, I'm going to try to get better.
No,
That's
like, dude, there's times at X Games where I was on the landing throwing rocks at the judges in the Staples Center because I'm so pissed off. Like, how the hell did I not get a medal right now? And then it's like, there's sometimes, and that was the thing with judges events. It's like, sometimes it worked in your favor, sometimes it didn't. Yeah. Like, sometimes there would be dudes judging you that don't even ride a motorcycle.
Yep.
And I would go over and be like, hey, what are you guys looking for? What didn't I do? Because I feel like I should have been in the top 3. And they're like, oh, well, you did too many flip tricks. I'm like, they're like, this guy only did 2. I'm like, because he's a pussy. And I did every flip trick I possibly could. That's way gnarlier. And I'm like, they're like, you need more variety. So I'd go out and throw in 2 more regular stupid ass tricks and then win the contest by 10 points. Like, so it's like, you had to play the game.
If you've never played a sport in any action sport or combat sport, you shouldn't be able to judge it. That should be a rule like set in stone for all combat sports and action sports.
My whole career, I'm like, if you're going to have judges, they need to be dudes that actually ride a motorcycle and know the fundamentals of what the hell's going on.
For sure. And are not bitter that they're not still competing.
Or not bitter that they never.
Because I've seen that a lot. Like,
not bitter and they already have a grudge against you. And no matter what, you're not getting it.
I've had those work against me.
Experience right now.
Both of us are.
Yeah. So, anything you want to say about that?
No, man.
Okay,
That's the past.
I like it.
It is what it is.
No,
That's
I
the
agree.
thing. It is what it is. It is what it is.
Yeah,
I learned something out of every one of those experiences.
No, and I agree.
Do I want to compete today, right now, with what the talent is looking like? Whew. I got some work to do. It's gnarly out there in skate. Skate's gnarly.
Dude, even freestyle moto right now.
It's
Dudes are
crazy.
doing double flips, freaking double front flips.
Yeah, the front flip never made sense to me.
No, like body varials. Like, dude, there's some kids right now that are doing some crazy stuff, but I feel so bad for them at the same time because it's like, I felt like my era of freestyle moto was like the best paid, the best events. You're on TV every weekend. Like,
Same escape.
Like, now it's like these dudes are doing the gnarliest things for like a fraction of what we were making. You know what I mean? And I'm 100%. Like, they're killing themselves over $5,000 or 2,500. I'm like, why the hell would you even go there?
And for
like,
an Instagram clip that goes away.
That's what it is too. It's like just for a clip for the internet. Real
goes
quick.
away.
Yeah.
There's no more like crusty demons of dirt, like the Plan B skate movies. Like there's, I am proud of skateboarding because they still are making full videos.
Yep.
There's still full pieces, full bodies of work for skate teams, which is like dope.
I did that for a couple years. I think I dropped like 3 movies and it was a lot of work. Each movie took 2 years, 2.5 years, to get all the stuff, and then like I saw Raul just dropped a movie. So I was like, that's cool to see someone still
doing it.
Yeah. Someone took the torch. Like that's awesome,
Well, it's hard because it's such a, we're living in such a society of like instant gratification. And it's always kind of been like that, but the technology is finally caught up to where the instant gratification is there. Yeah. And so to actually put, set aside and have the game plan to do a 2.5, 3 year project where you commit to that and you're patient with it and you can like see this thing come to life. I call it my album. I've talked about it before. It's like, you're not just going to put out a song and a half on an album. Like I want to put out 15 songs. I want this thing to be perfect. I think that's kind of work. It's kind of getting lost these days.
Dude, the hardest thing is like, we'll go out to the hills and we'll have a plan of like, let's put a dope edit together. Let's build like a little mini movie. Well, by the time you got home, fucking 6 other dudes already posted your clip on Instagram and you haven't even looked at your camera yet. You know what I mean? It's like
and it's over.
And I'm like, okay, well, that's not going in the video part because everyone already seen it, So it's like you try to go out and film stuff with like certain people and you're like, okay, we can't have no one with us because we don't want this getting out. And you go out into the hills now, there's a million people out there and everyone's like, fuck yeah. Like and before you're even done riding, your clip's on the internet,
It's you too.
Yeah.
And
same thing with you. I was telling him about skating. We had all the skate team out here, P-Rod and him, Gustavo, Robert Neal. And I'm like, yo, everything we're shooting right now, I'm posting on my story. So go ahead because what's the point? Everybody already here has posted all of you guys, the set, everything doesn't matter. That's why even with clothing and jewelry drops, like we're having the biggest sale of the year right now, up to 50% off site wide. People have known about it all year because they've been seeing the designs on my story. People have been reposting it. It's nothing new.
No.
I know we've been on here for a minute, and before I let you go, Ryan, first of all, I want to say thank you. It's good to see you back in here. I know the foot's looking better. Day after a surgery, came in here, started boxing, had to take another month off.
That's the athlete in him.
You, one of the most iconic guys in the game, and paved the way for what freestyle moto is and so many other things. Before I let you go, though, your Mount Rushmore freestyle moto, you have to pick 3 guys. Who you putting on there?
I have to pick 3 guys.
3 to 4 guys.
For freestyle moto. Mm-hmm. Well, for sure, Pastrana, Metzger, and probably Deegan. Yeah, those are, for me, those are like the most iconic dudes. Those are all the dudes I looked up to and got inspiration from. 100%.
But that's the best top 3 I could think of.
Nowadays, though, there's a couple dudes that are bad, like this kid, David Ronaldo. He's won X Games the last couple of years. He's bad. Thomas Pezes, you know Thomas. Yeah. He's so inventive. You know what I mean?
He's
Taka.
Next level. Taka's rad.
Yeah. Bro. Taka's almost 40 and still doing every trick he's ever done.
How's his English right now?
It's worse.
No way.
It got worse. I think he got comfortable with it. And then he married a French wife. So he's all over the place. When he speaks, you hear Australian, French, Japanese, and Spanish all the time from him.
That's amazing.
So I mean, that's a great Mount Rushmore, and obviously there's no one more iconic than you when it comes to freestyle moto. And I think you're the one carrying the torch for that whole sport as it is, because the content and everything you put out now, it still keeps that whole energy and vibe alive.
Yeah. I trip because like all the dudes in my era, I don't see any of them posting riding clips of like doing cool shit anymore.
Nothing.
Like half the time they don't even have bikes anymore. And I'm like, I don't know what, I would go crazy without a motorcycle. Like
for sure.
If I don't ride for a little bit, my wife's always like, you're being a dick. You should go ride. Go hang out with your buddies. Like, go ride your motorcycle. And like, that's how I get my fix is my motorcycle.
That's
so
my
it's like,
wife with my meetings. Yeah. She's like, you haven't been to a meeting in a minute. You need to go tonight. I'm like, all right, I'll go.
I love it. And honestly, it's been a pleasure to watch you guys be able to sit down and talk to X Games icons.
Cool.
You know?
Yeah, this is just normal. Man.
Yeah.
This is my guy. This is my guy.
I love it.
What's next right now, though? What's up right now?
Next for me, we are actually working on a bunch of sponsorship stuff right now. Me and my buddy Keith Sayers partnered up and ended up linking a deal up with NHRA to go jump at like 18 rounds of the drag racing.
Sick.
And then we're selling sponsorship for another series that we're going to do with Moto America, like where they do the bagger racing, like
cool.
Moto GP, like all that stuff. So yeah, we've been busy. We've been busting our ass with that, like just making decks, making changes, sending them out, just email after email. But I look at it like if I don't do it, someone else is. And we have a tool right now, like let's utilize it. Let's go do this and have fun and create jobs for our friends to go ride every weekend.
Amazing.
Such a like unique position to be in, where you can just kind of like create a business that you love, go do an activation somewhere that builds your brand, you get your boys paid. Like it's the dream job.
And that's what's crazy is trying to do this and run a company and keep myself relevant and family time. Like, you know, so it's cool. I wouldn't change anything. I love it. I love working my butt off. I love having an idea, creating something, working on it and seeing it do good. Like that's just, when there was contests, I would work my butt off so hard. Like I miss that. I miss working my ass off. Like I miss that. So it's like,
it doesn't just go away. It transfers.
Let's do it in other parts of the world. You know?
Yeah. No, and same with you. Like just to hit the nail on the head real quick. It's like I see it with him every week. He's in here trying to help me with content, help me with a team. We're putting together this JAXXON Money Cup, which is gonna be a one night event, one off here with him and P-Rod and Gustavo and Robert as the guest judges, our skate team. Yep. And we're gonna invite 10 guys that P-Rod and Sheckler pick. We're gonna give away $10,000 cash.
That's dope.
Have a little DJ.
Not just like fun, just something
fun stuff,
something different, you know. And then like
it. You'll be here.
Yep. For me right now, you know, I'm working on this thing called Flow Time for Sandlot Times. And so what we're doing is this initiative where like kids can submit for the next like 3 months. They can submit 1 minute of footage of their best footage. And what we're looking to do is to put 3 skateboarders from anywhere in the world on Sandlot Times as flow for the next year. And so right now what we've been seeing, and like this is where the social media comes back into play, that it's like actually a huge help. Yeah. Because it's a competition run through Instagram to see what the best skateboarding is going on out there and who wants to be a part of the brand. That's also like, you never know if people want to be a part of. Yeah. So like having people do the tags and like paying the $75 and getting a one-off t-shirt and like submitting their footage shows me that they want to be a part of the brand. So We're getting some sick.
Where can they go find that on SandlotTimes.com?
Yeah, SandlotTimes.com. If you guys or any of your friends or anybody you know that you think fits the vibe of Sandlot, like send them over SandlotTimes.com.
And for DBK, before we bounce, what do you have for that? The website and any crazy sales going on right now?
Just dirtbikekids.com. And then, we're doing a bike giveaway for the whole month of December right now. We got a brand new Yamaha we're giving away.
I saw you burning that tire.
Yeah, I'm trying not to burn the tire all the way off. I got to do a couple more videos. So maybe I'll send the bike and a brand new tire with it.
That's fair. That's fair.
I love that. And with that being said, this is another episode of Jackson Podcast. Ryan, back on the hot seat.
We're back in. Sorry for the hiatus, but
like, bro, you have a surgery. Your foot's like, let it heal.
Yeah.
He comes in here. I have TJ Dillashaw and Rampage and Mighty Mouse. He's in here and he's hitting the back. And I'm like, Ryan, what are you doing? And then the next day he sends me a photo. His foot's like split open.
Well, I didn't know what the foot looked like.
Yeah.
Because I was still like post-surgery with all the bandages on. So I'm here, I'm boxing.
I'm like, what are you doing?
And then the next day I got it taken off and I was like, oh.
Maybe I should chill for a bit.
I had Blake Snell in here. We just signed him. He's a 2-time Cy Young Award winner, plays for the Padres. He just won the Cy Young, best pitcher in the MLB. And he's like, why is he hitting the bag with a cast on his foot? I'm like, oh, that's Ryan Sheckler. He's a little different. He's like, I know he's Ryan Sheckler, but why is he doing that? I go, he don't really care.
I can't sit still, man.
No, it's hard.
I can't sit still.
I think that's a wrap now. That is one of our longest podcasts we've ever done.
It's too easy, bro, when it's friends.
Yeah, this was so genuine.
This is perfect.
Yeah, this was
too
so
easy.
genuine.
I love doing podcasts when it's like this. It's just fun.
For real.
It's not like stupid questions. It's like real shit.
Yeah, bro. It's life. We've lived life together.
And it's the easiest thing to talk about.
Yeah. All right, that's it. We'll see you guys on the next one. I don't know who it's going to be.
It's a wrap.
We out.